The US government is now gaining access to newly and highly advanced technology that has the capability, Cenk, to gain access to Americans' most sensitive data and information. And the Trump administration has no problem with this. Do you have any problems with this, Cenk? Because I feel like I do.
I have enormous problems with it. And I think that you will if you're watching at home when you find out how they're going to surveil all of us. And as always, they say, no, this is for your own good. Now give me all your private information. I bet they won't do anything wrong with it. Tell us about it, Yas.
Okay, so this week there were two articles that were published highlighting a growing concern of this sort of technology, which is understandable, and what the government says it is being used for. Note what it says it's being used for. So according to a piece from the Wall Street Journal, in the battle against illegal immigration, the US is spending hundreds of millions of dollars on tools that give federal agents easy access to the home and workplace addresses of American citizens, their social media accounts, vehicle information, flight history, law enforcement records, and other personal information, as well as data to track their daily comings and goings. The Department of Homeland Security has put these surveillance tools, including facial recognition software, location tracking, and social media scrapers, once aimed largely at suspected terrorists and drug traffickers, in the hands of federal immigration agents who can identify, research, and track virtually anyone by entering a name, license plate, or by simply taking a person's photo. And this newly expanded domestic surveillance system, a high-tech dragnet built to locate, track, and deport people residing illegally in the US, allows thousands of federal agents nationwide to peruse a trove of data belonging to more than 300 million people, including citizens. So what do you know? It was never about the drug traffickers. It was never about the violent criminals. It was never about the illegal aliens or immigrants who were coming into our country. It was never about any of that, right? All they wanted was our data. That's what is for sale these days. We are the product. We are the ones that are for sale. So the Wall Street Journal spoke to multiple US citizens in Maine who were targeted using this technology simply because they were trying to keep tabs on ICE agents so that they could warn people. And if you remember a few months ago, like that kind of technology was everywhere before they started cracking down on it. So one morning in January, a woman named Liz McLellan witnessed and took photos of an ICE agent making an arrest. And when she followed them to see where they were heading next, what happened was McLellan was surprised when the agent led her to her own house and blocked her driveway. Other federal officers quickly arrived, boxing in her car with their own vehicles. This is a warning, an agent told her, according to court records and a video recording. We know you live right here. And if you think the Trump administration cares about this, you would be wrong, because they're the ones who are pushing for all of this oversight. So with the backing of Congress and President Trump, DHS spent a record $425 million on surveillance tech in the past year, a 17% increase from the prior year. Federal spending is on pace to set another record in 2026, according to an analysis of federal contract data by the Journal. So of course, thankfully, civil rights groups have filed multiple lawsuits against DHS, alleging that their use of surveillance tools to revoke visas and arrest immigrants without warrants, or to even threaten bystanders observing federal agents, all of this is a giant violation of the Constitution. But again, DHS just brushes it off because they have all of the money behind them. They have the backing of all the tech bros. They have the backing of the entire government right now. And by the way, that's not even half of what the Trump administration is doing in terms of surveillance. There's way more. Because just earlier today, the Pentagon announced agreements with 7 AI companies, including SpaceX, OpenAI, Google, NVIDIA, Reflection, Microsoft, and Amazon Web Services. And the US Department of Defense is budgeting tens of billions of dollars for numerous technology firms, cutting edge programs related to intelligence, drone warfare, classified and unclassified information networks, and more. And it has requested $54 billion for the development of autonomous weapons alone. Where's the money coming from? That's what I'm sure we would all like to know. So, how each individual company's technology would be deployed was not specified, but the companies had agreed to the US military's deployment of their technology for, quote, any lawful use, according to the Pentagon. The startup Anthropic, which makes the popular Claude chatbot, had rejected including the lawful use standard in its contract with the Defense Department in a high profile feud with the Bureau last month. However, there are again concerns regarding what this technology even means for domestic surveillance. So currently in Iran, the Pentagon is reportedly using AI to generate hundreds of recommendations for targets in Iran, pinpoint their location, prioritize their importance, and even evaluate whether the targeting is legal. And one of the AI systems it is using, the Maven smart system, the culmination of a decade of collaboration between the Defense Department and the tech industry to enhance intelligence analysis, surveillance, and targeting. The system enables the military to comb through massive amounts of information from satellites, data brokers, the military's own drones and sensors, and social media to pick out people and objects of interest. So while they say this technology is going to be used lawfully, who even knows what that means? And make no mistake, this gives the military the absolute ability to access location information, social media posts, and the ability to recreate your movements and your habits, you sitting at home doing nothing that is actually a danger to this country or to your countrymen.
Look, one of the biggest problems with political media right now isn't just bias. It's how quickly the same story gets spun into two completely different realities depending on who's telling it. That's why I recommend Ground News. It's a website and app that pulls together reporting from across the political spectrum so you can compare how the same story is being covered, who's covering it, and what kind of narrative they're pushing. Take this story about Pete Hegseth refusing to rule out US troops on the ground in Iran. On Ground News, you can immediately see how differently outlets frame that same development. The Daily Signal downplays the danger by stressing that this isn't Iraq and that the war won't be endless. NBC, meanwhile, focuses on the key fact that Hegseth would not rule out American boots on the ground in Iran. Same story, two completely different realities. And Ground News makes that obvious right away. You can compare headlines side by side, see the bias distribution of the coverage, check the factuality ratings of the sources, and even see who owns the outlets behind the reporting. That matters because once you understand how stories are being framed, you start to see how public consent gets manufactured. Ground News also has a blind spot feed that highlights stories that one side of the political spectrum is barely covering. So you're not just trapped inside the version of the world your algorithm wants to feed you. If you're tired of being fed somebody else's narrative, I genuinely recommend Ground News. Go to ground.news/TYT or scan the QR code. Using our link gets you 40% off Ground News Vantage Plan, and you can also gift a subscription directly through Ground News.
All of this is not only a threat to privacy, but it could make you a potential military target. So the inferences the technology makes can be misleading and riddled with bias, such as when it flags satire or humor as genuine security threats or associates protected characteristics like Black and Muslim identities with violence and other negative sentiments. And we know that AI is not perfect. We know that it makes all kinds of mistakes whenever it's analyzing things. We know that it doesn't perceive human emotion the way it should. We know that it has biases that are implicit within it, that it learns these biases from the posts and all the information that it's pulling from. And this is incredibly dangerous. John, wasn't there a movie about this before where they try to target people before they've even done anything? I don't know, maybe a Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah, no, that's funny because I was just gonna start with Skynet is nearly complete.
Also that.
Yeah, that's from Terminator. Yeah, look, guys, there's a couple of dangers here. First of all, Palantir talked about how they were testing and using their systems in Gaza. Oh, great, soon we might be using it here in the way that they use it in Gaza. And then there's reports, we don't know this yet for sure, that it might have been one of these AI programs that got the location wrong and hit the girls' school in Iran and killed over 160 young girls. Skynet's going great. And don't worry though, when they turn it against you, I'm sure it'll work much better. after they work out the kinks, murdering people in different countries, when they bring it here, I'm sure that their system of oppression will be perfectly worked out by then. Well, are they going to bring it here? First of all, that's the whole story here. They're saying, oh, hell yeah, we're going to bring it here. And then the only question is, what level of oppression do we get? Do they just invade our privacy and start censoring us and arresting us or denying us things for opposing, well, either our government, but more likely the Israeli government, or do they get into physical force, right? And so, well, one guy who connects a lot of those stories is Larry Ellison. And he's the founder of Oracle, and he's one of the biggest donors to the IDF, and he's the guy who bought TikTok, CBS, and CNN. And Larry Ellison said on tape, yeah, through this newfound technology, we're going to be able to track every citizen in everything they do. Oh, well, thank you, Israeli big brother. That sounds like it's gonna be great for America. And finally, that's what we get to. So what have they already begun to do? Well, I reported earlier in the week about how DHS is now denying people green cards if they have posted on social media criticism of Trump, no. America, no. Bolivia, no. You got it, right? Israel, of course. If you dare oppose Israel in social media, these AI programs will find you. Now, already they have a bunch of brown shirts in this country, the Israelis do, like Canary Mission, and their job is to attack the families and the livelihood of anyone who opposes Israel and try to ruin their lives. This will help them find people more quickly and destroy them easier. And we've already seen that the administration has actually literally asked groups like that, hey, who should we target? Who should we arrest on behalf of Israel? Which students should we kick out? What does Israel want us to do with this technology to oppress our own citizens and anyone else that lives here? So you have that to look forward to. God, this looks so amazing. And the entire time they'll tell you, oh, it's for your security. And meanwhile, though, they never catch anyone. Right? They never stop any of the shooters before the shooting happens. They never stopped acts of terrorism. You never actually get that security. They don't mean your security. They mean the security for the rich and powerful, and most especially for the beloved and most precious Israelis.
Yeah, I think the movie that I was thinking about was Minority Report. And what's funny about that is that I've never seen that movie. I've never watched the movie, but it's about Tom Cruise as a cop, and he is from the future, and he like arrests people before they actually commit the crimes that they're gonna commit. And I know that I've talked to John about this, but I don't like future stuff, right? I don't watch it. I think I only just recently watched Terminator like a few years ago, but I hate it, right? I don't want that future. And these movies are always depicting a dystopian future. It's never a good, fun future that they're showing us. And these are the kinds of movies that we have been fed since like the 70s, 80s, 90s, and they wonder why now they're having such a hard time selling the people on AI. They wonder why we're not more excited to adopt this technology. We all know about Skynet. Even if you've never seen Terminator, you know about Skynet, you know what it can do, you know what it can become, and you saw the kind of earth that it left us with. That's not why we're not buying it. We don't want it. And all of this stuff, like we knew that putting things on social media, that they were calling it somehow because it was free to use, right? So I think that was like fairly understood information that, why is it free to use? Because they want us to use it. They want our information. They're gonna sell that information. And at the time, maybe a few years ago, before AI was so ubiquitous, the most sinister thing about it was that they want to sell your information so they can also like buy ads, right? Like all of it was about advertising. But now it's more about surveillance, and they want to monitor the things that you're saying and doing sometimes before you even say and do them. They want you to be afraid. They want you to be afraid to speak out. They want you to be afraid to leave your house. They want you to know that you are absolutely being watched. And so you need to watch everything that you say and do, not just when you're out in the world, but even in your own home. We all have these phones that we carry with us everywhere that track everything we do, that follow us around. Half of us have like Amazon, what's her name? Alexa is in our houses, and we know that that thing listens to you. All of these things have just like culminated to this point where we now have Palantir that can like aggregate all this information and give it to whoever wants it. This is the point that we're at. And we know that Palantir has no moral compass whatsoever. They really just don't care if we literally die. I think the CEO has even said that much. And so as long as they're making money, they don't care what happens to the American people. The fact that they were even like trial running this technology in Gaza should tell you everything. They treat those people like guinea pigs because they don't care if they die. We know that. We see what's happening over there. And if it goes well, maybe why not just do it right here on the American people? Because the American people, we can get a little uppity sometimes, and that is not good for an authoritarian government. They don't like uppity, and that is what we can be sometimes. And especially now that the American people are turning on Israel, that is not good for them and for their agenda and for whatever it is that they're trying to achieve in the Middle East and with the oil crisis, all these things. The American people, if there's a possibility that we can upset that for them, then they want to control us and make sure that we can't do that. And it's very sad that we are at this point, but I do want to say, because I gotta say it, we told you so, right? Like we said that this is where things are gonna be headed. And if we don't do something to stop it, it's just gonna get worse and worse and worse. And this is where we're at now.
Okay, first I gotta say, oh my God, bring back the ads. Like if you just use the AI for ads, deal. Okay, we'll just stop right there and it's you got a deal. Make more money, I don't mind. Okay, it will probably also make money. So good, God bless, right? But don't use it for weapons. Don't use it for weapons. Okay, so as if all this wasn't bad enough, I got one more depressing fact for you. So there's another guy investing into this, and the Pentagon just gave him a $24 million contract, and I'm sure it was fair because the guy who got that deal was a company that Eric Trump is invested in. Oh, great. So earlier in the show, we gave you a story about a different company that Eric and Don Jr. are invested in, also got a giant Pentagon contract. But this one is a second one that only Eric Trump is invested in. And what are they making? Battlefield robots. Oh, great. Beavis is making battlefield robots and we're paying for it. So an epic disaster. And finally, guys, we got to get money out of politics before Skynet takes over. Because these corrupt politicians are just gonna let them run wild with this stuff and then it's gonna be too late. Get the money out, okay? Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.